This week, we're wrapping up our music miniseries as we discuss the soundtracks for Tomb of the Lost Queen through Mystery of the Seven Keys. Between Kevin Manthei's 25-game legacy and Her Interactive's popular brand, Thomas Regin had big shoes to fill. Despite being composer for only 7 games, he left his own meaningful mark on Nancy Drew music. Then, with all the modern era changes at Her, came a new direction for the music, including hiring a new composer, Ryan Ricks. We'll look at Ryan's work so far and explore what we hope to see with the music moving forward.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to your favorite podcast. Stay tuned for deep dives. My name is Carter, and I'm here with my incredibly musically talented co-host, Tori. And we are so excited to bring you the last portion of our music episodes here on the podcast. And today we're going to be talking about our last 2 composers of the Her Interactive Nancy Drew game series. Tori, are you excited to get into these 2 new eras or what?
Been a really fun experience to go through all this music again and really try to pin down what do I think? And I feel like I learned a lot of fun things about both Thomas Regin and Ryan Ricks, prepping for this episode.
Oh, so, I know. Their likes, their personal tastes and interests and everything. Yeah. It's
doing the deep dives. That's why it's great.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting because it's definitely a set apart and different era from the Kevin Manthei era, right?
Yeah.
And so it's good to unpack that and talk about things that they have done, So I'm excited to get into these games with you today.
Yeah, because the one thing we cannot deny is that all 3 of them have put their stamp, even Ryan Ricks, despite being very new to it.
Yeah.
They all have their own unique stamp that they've put on things. So
I'm excited.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah. And it starts off with Mr. Thomas.
Yes. So Thomas, we'll be talking about for basically, he covers going back to our eras. He was basically for all intents and purposes, you could say he was the personal era composer. Technically, he didn't get the first couple games, but that final point and click era of Nancy Drew, Tomb of the Lost Queen through Sea of Darkness, that was all his work. So, and he just has, I think, such an interesting background and some really interesting things to say, because actually we got into and some of you all listening may actually remember the official Her Interactive podcast.
Oh, God, I love that podcast.
Wasn't it? Yeah. The Unlocked podcast hosted by Tammy Tucky. And Tammy Tucky actually did an interview with Thomas Regin and Her Interactive on their YouTube channel when they were marketing Silent Spy. They actually did an interview with him as well. So we have some official Her Interactive content about Thomas. So let's just start with, before we get into his soundtracks, I think we need to do the same thing that we did with Kevin and just kind of lay out let's just get the background set.
I agree.
All right. So you want to take it away or
Sure.
should I?
Well, I will say, just kind of opening up how he got started, I think is such an incredible honor, because, Thomas says that Her Interactive actually reached out to him, and those are big shoes to fill, which we've kind of talked about in our previous episodes, what Kevin brought to the table. And so, Thomas expressed that he was very flattered that Her Interactive actually reached out to them, which I would be too, and I would also be sweating a little bit.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about that because he mentioned the Nancy Drew franchise at that point. It was big, it had a reputation. We talked at length about how well game sales did at certain points in the company. So he really just the brand itself was a big deal. But then also, can you imagine being handpicked as the guy who gets asked you want to have the music job? after Kevin Manthei, like I can't imagine. So
Oh yeah, I know.
kudos to him. And I'm excited. I'm just excited to get into it
I know
because
me
and see the
too.
development of his career.
I know
Yeah.
me too.
So
Yeah, no, and really there isn't much difference in how her interactive was giving instruction at this time. It was a pretty much like this similar to like I know in the very last episode of Kevin Manthei kind of detailed a greater deal from the captive curse, like what kind of instruction they were given. Still similar in this regard. Her interactive is like emailing Thomas and giving really thorough instruction of like, hey, this is kind of what we're inspired by. This is what we want it to sound
yeah.
like, you know. So that's still the same. I don't know if you want to talk about this aspect of him because I feel like
Oh
this is definitely something that you
yeah.
should talk about.
Because this is more. So some of this is more kind of his what's his focus, I guess, as a musician, like and a composer when he's writing. And something that Thomas emphasized in his interview was that kind of a key aspect to his approach is that he's always trying to write good, memorable melodies. And as soon as he said that, I feel like a bunch of things just kind of clicked into place because I think we could both agree already. Like there are so many Thomas Regin melodies. Like that if you just like threw the track at me, I could immediately start humming it to you. Um and so without even getting into specifics, I'd already say, well, I can tell that that mattered to you and you were really good at it. Like he is
Yes.
he's a melody man. So as I have been on the record saying, I love melodies. So this definitely plays to, what I enjoy in music. And then another thing, very near and dear to my heart, we have a kinship here. So again, this is actually something that we're going to see all three of our composers have in common is that piano is kind of like their main instrument. All of them have a background in piano of some sort, and Thomas Regin loves the piano. He's actually like he'll look for people who use piano as a main instrument. And again, I'm already thinking just of how many soundtracks he wrote where piano is a key player. Ha 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 ha. Pun not intended, but it works. Um and he actually finds it to be an overlooked instrument. So I think it means more from like, you don't hear necessarily piano as the solo instrument so much. And then I did just out of curiosity look into like his educational background.
Oh yeah.
And some of you may or may not know like Thomas is actually he's not American. I believe he's Danish. But also like lives or lived in Norway or something. So think like Scandinavia. So the way they do education in Europe is a little bit different, but basically like their version of schooling, he studied piano, like very focused, and he went to a school that specialized in music. So this is all like this is his life's blood. So I think Carter, you should talk about because you kind of already mentioned it in the whole like this is the guy who was asked to follow up Kevin Manthei. So, why don't you talk about because he was actually asked,
Yeah.
about stepping into those shoes. So,
Yeah, yeah. No, he mentioned that it was a very humbling experience for him to step into, and I think a lot of that had to do with the idea that he knew that there's 25 games that Kevin has written for, and everyone is very used to this, everyone's familiar with this, and they like it. And he was coming in like with his own personal style of how he writes music. And so for him, I think it was an approach of how can I write things that is different and that can be accepted and loved as that's my personal style. So it was like a challenge for him to be able to kind of tackle being the new brought on composer. Like how can I continue something that has been done in 25 games? But he said it was a very rewarding thing to like come to and do, which I can't I can't imagine like having
I
to go.
know.
It's just really hard when you have to follow someone else's long lasting work that has
Yeah.
worked for many people for so long. But in my opinion, before we even get into the music, Thomas Regin, Thomas Regin did such a great job stepping into his own space and like keeping it going, because
I agree.
I think his work, even though it was just like what, 7 games, there are at least, I'd say at least minimally one track from each game he worked on where I'm like, gosh, I love that track. That's such a great track, you know? Um, he really like he did it. Like he did his own thing. So it was good. You know?
Yeah. Well, and I respect him too that he walked into it knowing like I can't write like Kevin Manthei. Like I'm
Oh
not just
yeah,
gonna
that
try
too.
to be the Kevin Manthei imitator,
Right.
despite the fact knowing like the fans love Kevin Manthei soundtracks. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
kind of that mindset of like the only thing you can be is the best version of yourself.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. But one thing that was the same, one thing that did stay the same was the template. He
Yeah.
also talked about, so we still have that, 10 minutes of music, in the 10 to 12 range, and 10 to 12 tracks, which was the same if you go through all the Kevin Manthei soundtracks. Again, we talked at length about that template that her interactive loves so much. But here's where, I'm just going to bring it up now and we can revisit it when we get to the end of the Thomas Regin era. Is that
Yes.
Thomas, and this makes sense to me. He's got his groove. He's got a good relationship with the company. And so I think that's when you kind of start to feel like, maybe you can push things a little bit more if you think there should be a change. And as Thomas got further along, he started to push back on that template. Like he wanted the music to be able to do what it needed to do. And so when we get to the end, we'll talk a little bit more about specifically about Sea of Darkness. Sea of Darkness is the one that breaks
Yeah.
from the template, and
And it's
part of the
also
reason why Thomas did that was, again, he, like Kevin, had this awareness of the players going to hear this music a lot. And I don't want them to get tired of it or like hear it so much that they just start hating it. Because he knew, he even mentioned, he's like, I know these games, they take hours to play. So 10 minutes of music, that's not a lot to cover
yeah.
hours worth of gameplay. So he really wanted to break away from that mold, let the music kind of expand and evolve so that players would not go crazy like hearing the same thing over and over again. So we can talk more specifically about that, and then just because we are in this question of like how do we deal with looping? So I feel like this is the age old question of video game music, because Kevin was asked about it, Thomas has asked about it, like how do you deal with this issue of looping? And so another thing is, and this goes again with how he feels about writing strong melodies. Thomas's goal was always like, let me just write things as beautifully as I possibly can so the player enjoys it because they're going to be hearing it a lot. He also was very complimentary towards Her Interactive because he was aware that Her Interactive at that time purposefully um,
Sprinkle.
changed, like they'd sprinkle the tracks, and
Mm.
so like, yeah, you'd hear a track but then a different one would come after it, so it wasn't just the same thing looping over and over again. So he praised them for being aware of that and how they implemented the music into the games.
So important.
So I just think that's worth mentioning now also too, not to, because when we get to our second era, we have a composer company like big shift, like this is going to come into play again. So that's kind of like the background.
I love it. I love that we provide
And
background, to kind of give you
yeah,
a front seat at what was happening at the time that these shifts were happening in the company. So,
yeah.
and it's also good to
And
kind
as
of like know the background of,
And as I always like to say, like none of this stuff happens in a vacuum. I think sometimes
yeah.
it's easy to feel like a Nancy Drew game just gets like handed to you, like poof, there it is. And so it's nice to know, like, no, there's like real like thought process, real
hmm
people involved in like putting all this together thoughtfully and having to make decisions about like what is the best way to handle
Oh,
this.
absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
But that brings us to Thomas Regin's first game, Tomb of the
Yes.
Lost Queen.
Tomb of the Lost Queen. It was a shift for her interactive, and actually, I will say because I'm thinking now as we talk about this about Tomb of the Lost Queen was that big UI change where
Yeah.
you have this
That
new main menu
mahogany wood.
screen, and we're not hearing that iconic, like much as we love it, we don't hear that like Nancy Drew theme song on the main menu anymore. Tomb of the
Yeah.
Lost Queen opens up and you have this image of Egypt.
Yeah.
And then you have this I think the track is Ancient.
Yes.
It's playing on the screen and uh honestly, like I don't know if it's just because maybe that is like the first piece of music that you hear when launching Tomb of the Lost Queen. But I really enjoy kind of that setup,
I agree.
and I think it just like draws for me. It draws me in immediately. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna go to Egypt.
Yeah.
We're gonna search a pyramid. Like, let's find a mummy. And this place is thousands of years old. Like I that particular track. I don't know if her interactive like told him gave Thomas context like, hey, we need something that's going to play on the main menu, or if they just gave the whole like, hey, give us a track that sounds like this, and then they listen to it and they're like, man, that sounds like it really worked for the main menu. But I just think like the design, like the whole thing works. That particular track works really well.
You know,
Just draws me in.
a part of me wonders if they had I don't even know if they even like knew that they were going to change all of that yet from 25 to
That's a good question
26.
too.
I part of me cuz I know that they asked for music pretty early on in the process. I wonder if they kind of made that decision in the game making process like, hey, we're going to up everything again. We're going to change the UI and I they chose that track to be the menu track just based on what Thomas sent
Yeah.
in. Yeah.
No.
But no, I agree with you. There is something. So I am, of course, very like, oh, nostalgic, like menu starter screen, like the books, and
Yeah.
then even the desk, and then like there's something to appreciate about each intro. But this one was so sleek when it first came out, like the way that it just like opens, and I there's no way that I could imitate it because it's so many notes at one time. But how
Oh
Ancient
yeah.
starts with the like that
Yeah,
little
yeah,
like
there's that quick riff.
yes, and it's just like, it just like sets the tone for what you're
Yeah.
about to do, and having this be the first game with that track, it's just like perfect. It's perfect. Could not have chosen
Yeah.
a better track.
I just love it. And
Mm-hmm.
now the soundtrack as a whole, like it's not one of those like I don't really seek Tomb of the Lost Queen out to listen to it. And part of that may just be because like it is so like Egyptian in
Yeah.
its styling. It's like you almost have to be like, well, am I in the mood to listen to, ancient Egyptian music today? You
But
know?
that's funny because
Um
a lot of his collection of games are kind of like that. Not all of them, but there are a few that I can think of off the top of my head where they're so focused on their theme that those are not ones that I particularly seek out to listen to.
Yeah, and I like musically, I wouldn't say like, oh my word, this one just blows me away. And Thomas himself actually like talked about Tomb of the Lost Queen as his first soundtrack. Like
Yeah,
he had to get a lot of help from Her Interactive
which
because
makes
it was his
sense. It's first one.
first game. Like he indicated apparently they gave him a lot of direction on how they wanted it to sound, and they actually in this case they actually sent like temporary music tracks like that they really liked and said, hey, can you write something similar to this, which I
Mm,
feel like that is a little bit more like hands on than just
yeah,
like writing up a brief and saying, hey, we like stuff like this, but to actually like have already chosen like we think this would work really well, like can you kind of recreate it in your own style. And he's feeling like I'm in new territory, like I haven't written for this series before, and
yeah.
he was trying to figure out like how do I give Her Interactive what they want, but how do I still stay true to like myself as a composer. And so he actually said like he doesn't think Tomb of the Lost Queen by any standard is like the best music he ever wrote, but he's still like it was his first Nancy Drew soundtrack and he's proud of it. And
Yeah.
you know, so and all of that when I found out, like I feel like it gave me kind of a lot of understanding of even how I relate to Tomb of the Lost Queen because it's music, because it's one of those, like I said, I don't seek it out really. Like if it comes up in an ambiance video or whatever, like that's fine. I enjoy it, but it's more like it's one of those soundtracks that I feel like I just kind of associate it with its game, and that's it. Like if I'm pulling up Tomb of the Lost Queen and that music starts playing like throughout the game, I enjoy it. And again, going to his like ability with melodies, I think Tomb of the Lost Queen has some really memorable melodies. Um, and again, this is one like I could never hum it and do it justice, but that one I want to say it's him, and he uses some like cultural specific instrument, and it's very
Yeah.
again, it's
That's
very
actually my favorite
like
one.
I was like, man, it just sits there and it is very like enchanting to
Yes.
listen to, almost like leaves you spellbound.
Yeah. That's actually
And
that's my favorite one
is
from,
it
yeah, it's him.
that makes a lot of sense. And there's some other ones. And again, like I think it's a solidly like if you need to feel like you're playing a game in Egypt, I
Hmm.
think it fits the bill. It meets the need. Maybe almost stereotypically so. And I actually remember there were some people on my survey who when if they had criticism of this one, they're more like it sounds almost like stereotypical. Like but if he was being given like music from her interactive and they were just asking him to imitate it, like to me that kind of all goes hand in hand. Because there'd be a big difference between like sitting down and like kind of doing it completely like, you know, with no other reference points, like that hardcore versus like they send you a bunch of stuff and be like, hey, make this, but Thomas Regin style.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
if that makes sense.
No, yeah, it
So
does. Yeah,
so
but no, I mean, for a first game, I mean, which I obviously he would be more critical of his own work and notice things that probably most people wouldn't notice, but I think for a first game, it is a great soundtrack for the game setting and
yeah,
what it is. It's great. The only thing, which you actually mentioned it here too, the only thing that I particularly also feel about this track is that I don't find the danger tracks to be like anything super special from what we've heard in the course of the music that we've been given. There have been other danger soundtracks where it was just like, wow, this is so good, right? But these are just your pretty standard, like, you know.
yeah. It's just yeah. It doesn't blow me away. Although yeah, again, I'd be so curious. This is where it's like I need access to every document her interactive sent to these people because I want to know what they were asking for.
Right.
Because even and you actually kind of commented on it when you streamed this game earlier this year that you kind of just get dropped into the ending of the game. So it's almost like there's not even really that much opportunity, I feel like, to experience, ooh, danger, like culprit
And
confrontation.
honestly, that's not even
So,
a Thomas Regin problem. That was just how the
right.
game was
So,
made problem.
right. So that's where it's kind of one of those, I don't want to, him having a lackluster danger track. I was like, I don't want to necessarily just assume that that's like a Thomas problem.
Right. Because had it been in the right setting, maybe it would have hit better. I don't know.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that brings us to his next piece of work, which was Deadly Device. And this one is so special in part of how he was inspired by it, but also because I think thematic wise, it's like, it's just so on point. Like it's, I don't even know.
Yeah.
It's just like, you can't even listen to this track and not feel like, hmm, I'm in a lab, or I'm in something electric right now. You know, like
Yeah. It's,
there's, yeah, there's something about this track that's like, it just those are the vibes it always gives every
Yeah.
single time I listen to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, how do you make music feel scientific? Well, pull up this soundtrack because he did it.
No, really. Yeah, really. But I
Yeah.
think you should talk about like what you have found out about like his inspiration and stuff because it gets really focused into like specific music
Yes.
style.
So he does have a specific like composer inspiration for for this one. So it's a French composer, Jean-Michel Jarre, who apparently is a I wasn't really super familiar with him before researching for this episode, but apparently he's a very significant composer to like the synthesizer era of music. So you're talking, I think, we're talking like 1960s or somewhere around there. That this kind of thing is coming into play. And apparently actually Thomas, like not just for Deadly Device, but Thomas said like just in general, this um composer is a huge influence on him. And so when he was writing the Deadly Device soundtrack, he kind of wanted to take inspiration from Jean-Michel Jarre. And Jar's style, and you can look it up, like, any place that's got music. I listened to a little bit of it on YouTube and stuff. Has a very like technological, like electronic kind of sound. Again, very heavy on the synthesizers. And I was listening to some of his music. I was like, oh yeah, it's like I can totally hear the influence here. And again, it's not copycat. Thomas's stuff is very much like it's Thomas's work. But you could hear kind of in the instrumentation and the style and stuff like wow. And that makes so much sense using things like synthesizers and getting that very like electronic
Yes.
sound. Like is
Which I've
that not the
always
most appropriate
yes.
is that not the most appropriate thing to do with Deadly Device because
Yes.
it's a lab
Yes.
and it's called Technology of Tomorrow today. So the whole like point of the lab is technology. Let's find, the new things and bring us into the future. So, yeah, if you like orchestra, we don't need orchestra because that's not the fit here. Like, yes,
Yeah.
you need synthesizers and stuff. So, and he described it as like with Deadly Device, he wanted like a synthy, unreal, kind of surreal kind of feeling to the music. But he's still trying to write good melodies. And like I say, if that's your goal, guess what, sir? I think you accomplished it. Because there is kind of this like, yeah, almost like unreal quality to Deadly Device's music, but
Yeah.
there's lots of melodies on that soundtrack that have always like stuck in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah. You know, I echo everything you were saying. I mean, the tracks in this one are just I remember distinctly remember playing this one at Christmas when this game had come out and I felt the same way that I feel now about it. It's just that the tracks are just like you listen to them and it's just undeniable that it fits its location. So he really did achieve what he set out to do. I know we have made like some notes about like specific ones that we like. Um I completely agree with you about the home screen one, Mystery, the one that's like da 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 da. That
Yeah.
one is just like it's just so good. I get you. I think you mentioned this, but I also get the same feeling. It's just like it's hard to. It's like metal and
Yes.
and
And we don't
scraps
mean
and
heavy metal, like
yeah,
literal like metallic
yeah,
sound
metal.
to
I
it.
just don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me that Thomas Regin has created just these vibes in music that you can't like I can't describe to you, but I'm like, yeah, metal, lab, like I can feel
Yes.
I don't know how to just don't know how to describe it. Yeah.
It is a very like tactile track to me. I don't know I don't know how yeah.
Yes, that's maybe the best way to put a tactile track. Yes.
Yeah, so and again, I think it just comes down to the instrumentation that he chose. So I give him
Yeah.
a lot of credit. Um and I also mentioned this um with Discovery. This is kind of a good
Oh,
example.
I love
So
Discovery.
um so one thing about Deadly Device that I've noticed, like it has a more modern sound. And again, that's one thing we've seen within the series itself. The series is shifting more and more towards let's modernize Nancy Drew.
Yeah.
And Deadly Device itself, like musically, the way it's written, has a very modern sound to it. And I don't just mean in terms of like, oh, he's using synthesizers. Oh, he's using a very electronic kind of sound. But I mean more towards like some of Deadly Device's tracks, like they have you'll get these little like musical motifs, and they're very repetitive. Like Discovery, for example, has that like, and it just those
Yeah.
two notes just keep going back and forth. And he'll use that same rhythm like that. And he's using the same like rhythm, but he just keeps pitching it up like a little bit and a little bit, a little bit. And so there's kind of lots of like repetition to it. And modern music like tends to it'll lean more into those kind of repetitive choices where you'll have like a rhythm or a melody or something, and the music will keep like repeating it in some way. But uh, again, I think it's appropriate because Deadly Device, like again, we're in a lab that's very focused on you know modernizing everything.
Right.
But then also, to Thomas's credit, despite some of that repetition, like Discovery, even though it uses those motifs and things and those rhythms, and it will keep repeating them, I never get bored listening to that track
Yeah.
because he'll always throw in like little sprinkles of something new. So like your ear like, ooh, okay, like I didn't hear that, 10 seconds ago. And he'll just keep adding layers and things as the music progresses. And that one, even also, I love it. Like if you listen, there's kind of multiple melodies going on and they weave together.
Yeah.
So like that one, I know a lot of people really love that track. Like I think it's a really good demonstration both of kind of like Thomas's, like I feel like his composer voice really comes through on that one.
Yeah.
But I think
But
also, yeah, it's a good demonstration of a little bit more modern sound, but not so modern that it's like, oh my word, this is boring.
no, yeah,
Make
and
it stop.
he definitely like has avoided doing repetition to the point where it's like, which I'm sure we will talk about in some future games, where like there were tracks that were just so repetitive that it was the same thing for a full 3 or 4 minutes, where it just like was the same repeating, which he avoided by doing those things. So, I have a track on here that is or we didn't put it in the notes, but I actually really like Loss. I don't know if you're familiar with Loss, but it's the
Oh,
one
that's the one with
that's,
the cello, right?
yes, I love that one. It actually kind of reminds me of like Captive Curse, probably because I think Captive Curse has one that's
Oh,
very when it starts off, I can't remember the track right now because I don't have it in front of me, but it starts off with that cello where it's like da, 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 like just the same way as Lost, and I really like that one in Captive Curse, so maybe that's why I have like this love for it. But I really like that one, and also Research as well. Research is another one of those ones where he has that same like melody again, but it's like dun. It's just really happy. It's like I
yeah.
don't know if I can like mimic it, but it's just really happy, and so I think I like that one because it's happy in a game that's pretty like serious and like lab and death and murder.
Yeah,
This one's
yeah.
really like a nice break and is all light and happy, and I'm like, yeah, it's the lab. So I'm gonna go play aggregation and gummy bears. So
Yeah, I get that. I did also want to mention before we move on. I think Deadly Device. It's worth mentioning kind of how the Clue Crew feels about it.
oh yeah,
In
please
general,
do.
because I remember this one stood out to me when I did my survey because
Yes.
I got multiple people who were like, "Wait, how did I forget this soundtrack existed? Like, oh my goodness, it's so good." And I think this is where you run into the case of, again, Deadly Device is a later game,
Yeah,
so
that
not played
affects
as
it.
much. But then also, if you like rank the games, Deadly Device tends to fall pretty low in the ranking with a lot of people because it's so science heavy. It tends to like kind of overwhelm a lot of people, or they're just like they don't find it interesting.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of those like the soundtrack just kind of flies under the radar because people are not playing the game as much, so it's not like, you know, getting just like poured into their mind as much as some other soundtracks. And so it was there were a lot of people, it was almost like they got to this one, they're like, what a pleasant surprise. Like, oh my goodness, I love this soundtrack. I can't believe I wasn't listening to it. Like,
Yeah.
it's so
Well,
good.
also, I not as strongly, but I do feel like it's possible that maybe people unintentionally or subconsciously view this game a lot like Final Scene, the Haunted Carousel. It's almost like that's, you know, because we were talking about its thematics being very strong and very specific to a lab. I don't think people like seek this one out to be like, oh, I'm gonna turn on the Deadly Device soundtrack, because not everyone's just like, I'm gonna listen to the lab ambience, like lab, you know, like, you know what I mean?
All
So
right, when do we get the Carter Plays Te- Tesla Lab ambience?
I'm just
Prove
saying
them
because
wrong.
look, I could easily go for, you know, Danger by Design Park. It's very, everything's really like easy to the ear. This one is just a lot more like what it's supposed to be. It's harsh, it's metallic, it's synthy. And I don't think people are sitting there going, yeah, I just need to de-stress after work by listening to some synthy lab music on the way home. You know what I mean? So I think that's also probably too why maybe people don't, you know, consider this track.
Yeah, perhaps. I will say for me personally, this is one I like to listen to like
Really?
outside the game. Yeah, I think it's really solid.
It's cool.
Ghost of
Oh,
Thornton Hall.
I know we're very excited to talk about this one, both you and I.
All right. Well, then, whose onions up first?
I hate this one. That's my onion. Past is the only
Okay.
one that I love, but I don't like this one.
Okay. Well, you have poured forth your onion, and now I'm gonna need you to articulate this.
Okay. Okay, because here's the deal. No, wait, no, no, wait. Hold on. Because I know everybody's going to be in the chat like, oh my gosh. But here's the deal. Okay, listen.
You're
I'm not saying it's not a good track. I think it's a wonderful track. And in the sense
talking
of,
about the soundtrack as a whole.
like, well, what in the sense of it does what it's supposed to. It's got its vibe. It's spooky and stuff. Blah 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 blah. But what I mean when I say that I hate this one is because it's like all ambience. Like that's all it is just
Mm,
sound. And the only music, like the actual music that you hear, really only comes from like past. In my onion, there may be a couple other ones, but I didn't remember them because there's too much ambience in them. You see what I'm saying? Past is the only one where it comes in and it's like it hugs you and you're like, oh yes, music, yes. Other than that, it's a bunch of oh, the whole time.
okay. Well, I will say because you went straight for the soprano. I mean that is music, but I do
It
remember.
is.
I remember when you did your tier ranking video. You said that,
Yes,
like you isn't it you Carter you tend to not be a big fan of vocals
it's true.
in a soundtrack,
It's
right?
true for the most part.
But okay,
But the thing is though, is it like in in this game though, which you know, I know we'll later get the chance to have like a full platform to talk about this game, but as far as its music goes, it just playing this game, hearing a lot of like ambience, like weird like whistle-ish kind of noises and just these sounds to me,
yeah.
I I don't know. I wanted more music like Past. Past is so beautiful. It's so symbolic to the story, and I want more of that and less of just I'm walking around and hearing just other things. I don't know what to say.
Guess Carter doesn't want sound.
I
Man
don't.
wants
No,
music.
because that's its own entity. Like you could have the game could have had sound effects. That's fine. That's different. I want music. I want music because that's what you've given me in all the games. I want to connect with the music. I'm not saying it can't have but I want music. I want to feel like, oh, there's like past here and there's trauma here and there's sadness here and there's grief here, but there's also hope that maybe we can make for a better future. And there's all that's the vibe that the music should have given me.
Hmm, okay, solid. Okay.
That's my onion. Okay. I know
Well,
you.
I also don't really like. I don't like this soundtrack. Um,
Wait, I'm just to add on to what you're saying. I was just gonna go on record and say this is actually like m- my least favorite soundtrack. It's like
oh,
this
okay.
one and like Secrets Can Kill, Midnight in Salem. Those three are probably gonna be like close to like being at the very bottom of my least favorite soundtracks.
Okay.
There. Now
Um,
I'm done.
I've never tried ranking them in any kind of way, but I do know this one would fall very low for me. I will go ahead and just address, like, brother, I feel you on the ambiance. It's too much. It There are so many tracks in here. Like, good luck trying to make a piano cover of them, because there ain't no piano notes to be made out of those whistle sounds and different things. Like, yeah, so it is very ambient, and it's interesting to me. It feels like a really hard shift from the previous two, and so I'm like, why is this one so ambient? I don't get it.
I don't
And
either.
I also understand. I'm with you, like, in the sense of, I get it. Like, there's a sense in which it fits its game really well, because Ghost of Thorn Hall is really spooky. uh, you're running around these grounds and through this mansion that's just like completely overrun, falling apart. So there's kind of almost a sense in which we're like, okay, kind of makes me think of Final Scene, where like there's a lot more ambience in Final Scene. Almost kind of seems like a reflection of, like, well, we can't even reach the level of music because this theater is falling apart.
Oh,
But
I
even
know.
the final scene is still like, its ambience is still more musical.
Yeah.
So I'm not a fan. But and also, and I've kind of mentioned this before, like, I personally, and like, basically outside of past, I find this soundtrack just really oppressive, like, oppressive to my mood. And again, some people was, well, that's the point. Ghost of Thornton Hall isn't exactly a happy game. Like, you're not supposed to have a good time. Trauma, pain, suffering. Um, but I just don't like it.
I
It
no, I agree
it's
that
really hard for me to sit through a soundtrack, and I just feel like, man, I just can't get any relief from this. Like, there's no color to it. Everything's just like weighing on me. And past, I agree, past really is beautiful. One
I
of my
agree.
favorite, like, Thomas Regin tracks, and I would say, just in general, one of my favorite Nancy Drew tracks. But it's like, that one track, as good as it is, it can't make up for everything that it's competing against in this game. Like, it's your little breath of fresh air for but a moment. But even so, like, past is very sad. um it has just a very kind of mournful quality to it. So, and again, I don't know how much there is to be done about this one because of the game's story. So
Right.
maybe it's just one of those, it is what it is.
I would
However,
say that. Oh, go ahead.
I still think ambience, like, the game story is no excuse for, like, how ambient the music is.
Yeah.
I really don't get it, why it's not more musical.
It's I for this one, I really want to know what her interactive's direction was to Thomas Regin
Me
on this
too.
one, because it doesn't feel like. I mean, who would know? How would we know? But it doesn't feel like Thomas Regin would be like, yeah, I'm only going to send them like one piece of music, and the rest is just going to be just ambient noises. You know what I mean? Like, it almost feels like that's what they wanted. in a way if they were definitely, especially because I know that they were really trying to make this like their darkest game. You know, I would I would say that it's probably one of their more just in style and just like environment. It's very dark, right? Um, I don't know if that's just what they were going for, trying to
Yeah,
make it
I
like
thought a lot about that.
trying
What
to make
did
it
they
more
ask
almost
for?
like a Nancy Drew like Nancy Drew friendly horror game in a way, you know, because that's like a whole style that of video games that people go for, and which I don't know, I'm not like into that kind of gaming, so I can't speak firmly on this, but I would imagine a lot of those games are a lot more ambient and less music focused. And if they do have music, it's more just for creepy purposes rather than just for listening. So I don't know if that's literally the direction they were going. They were like, we're just gonna make a Nancy Drew horror friendly game, and we just want it just ambience. You know, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know. I did want to mention because you have already blessed our ears with it. Ghost. So that's the one with the operatic soprano. So I have such mixed feelings about that track cuz that's the other like most melodic one. And well, we haven't even mentioned the Dear Sweet Charlotte track yet. But that one I always think of as differently cuz you're meant to hear it at like specific moments, like
Yeah.
key moments in the game. So it almost like exists in its
And
own
again,
little
meant to be
bubble
almost
to
kind of
me.
like creepy, like a oh, it's like a nursery rhyme, and it's
Yeah. Well,
like
yeah, we can
broken.
talk about I there's some interesting background to that track, but
Mm,
going back to Ghost, like I don't know how I feel about Ghost cuz on the one hand, like there's a moment in the story where Wade talks about Charlotte Thornton was a really good singer, and so I kind of like that connection to like, here's this lady singing, but
yeah,
it sounds very like eerie and ghostly.
which I think that's what it was
Um,
intended for.
yeah, but then also says it's like it's so intense. Like boom, you just have this soprano like blasting opera in your ear. It's like it's almost like it catches me off guard.
Yeah. I just
Um,
think that personally, like, which again, I get it because it's an older style, like house and like, past. You're talking about like lots of years of
yeah,
past, right? And so I think the operatic was chosen purposely. Yeah, maybe that's what it is for me. Like what you were mentioning, its abruptness and into the sound is just like uh, jarring for me. But it is just not my favorite thing. I totally understand it and respect musically like the idea of the singing and everything. But for me, I just really dislike this one. I have a strong dislike for this soundtrack.
yeah. Okay. I mean, sounds like we're in a very similar boat. Um, Well, we can go ahead and share, I guess, a little bit of that background just to the Dear Sweet Charlotte song
Yeah.
specifically. Because Thomas got to talk about this a bit in the Unlocked interview. And he knew that they were going to be using some kind of nursery rhyme, like have someone sing a nursery rhyme in the game. Like that was part of the creative brief that Her Interactive sent him. So
Yeah.
he went out and he listened to a lot of different nursery rhymes and children's songs, and he was like, "Okay, I need to write something that's really spooky, but also I need to keep it simple." And they come with the ladybug rhyme, and Thomas comes up with this melody, that
Ladybug, ladybug.
and it is very simple. I've played that before. I did a whole piano cover of it, like melodic, like in terms of the chord progressions and things, like it's very simple, like very appropriate. Like a nursery rhyme should not have complicated music. But he really thought a lot about like, okay, now how do I make the singing like sound really scary? And you can hear it when you listen to this track. He did, I guess, some weird editing, and there's actually a little bit of like reversing of things going on, and he's adding layers to try to make it sound almost like it's being sung backwards. And it is like I can it's like I couldn't even describe it to you. I think we all know when we listen to it, like, yeah, you can hear that little, like, whenever the girl starts singing, like, you can hear, like, this quality, and you can tell, like, whoa, it almost sounds like it's about to start going backwards. And so again, I don't know exactly what all he had to do in his software to pull that off, but yeah, I mean, it's it's creepy.
It is that.
Yeah.
It is that. I'll give
And
that to that soundtrack. Is that it is creepy. It is ambient and it is spooky and yeah.
yeah. Well, my friend, you sound like you're ready to move on
Well,
to
hey,
The Silent Spy.
I can tell you this though. This I think is one of his best.
Okay.
Yeah. I really like how the entirety of this game's mystery and just in general is very centered around, Kate and the piano. And so, everything makes its way throughout the game. The game is very tied to the music. And so, um, I think it's hard not to like have some kind of special attachment to the music specifically for
Yeah.
those reasons. But I love how it is like piano driven. Um, and you have to, I mean, there's all these memories with Kate literally sitting at the piano playing the soundtrack. I mean, like
Yeah.
it's just, it's hard not to be like, um, but yeah, no, I really like, I made an ambience video with some of the
You
tracks from
did.
this one. And yeah, I think Thomas put a special like thumbprint on this one, particularly. It's got like this very beautiful side of emotion to it. And also just some sweet, tender-hearted, like pull on your heartstrings kind of music. I remember when I was making that thank you video to Her Interactive, and I used one of the tracks that plays with like the bagpipes,
Oh.
from this one,
Yeah.
and it just you can't help it. As soon as that track starts playing, you overlay it on something emotional. You're like, oh my gosh, you just want to like wipe tears away because it moves you. So I don't know. This one is quite literally the opposite of what we just got done talking about.
Yeah.
And
You actually just made me think of something, and I guess I would say is a particular skill of Thomas's then, because like past is
mhm,
it feels very emotional. And then I
yes.
think, yeah, Silent Spy comes along and he just gets to like, oh yeah, like let's just go for all of the emotion.
Oh yeah.
So I think Thomas clearly, I think he has a good understand. I mean, even thinking what you said about like you were praising Loss
Yeah.
earlier from Deadly Device. There's a certain degree of emotion to that one. Like I think it seems to me if he's asked to write something that sounds emotional, that's a really good like space that he knows how
That's
to get
wonderful. That's my favorite kind. I'm like, yes, I want to cry. Yes.
But oh my goodness.
But no, I mean, if you wanted to ask me like specific ones, I it's you have a lot of like the mention, but like it's really the piano like Forward, Kate, Memories. I love those. I love those. They're so good.
Yeah, I think all the piano centric tracks, the ones you all just listed, also Expectations is the other one. I really enjoy listening to those. Um Again, I think it's a great like what you were saying, such a great tie to the story because they made Kate a pianist. And um again, even just as a little musical kind of aside, again, there's like a more modern style to those. Like I think of all these tracks, like Kate has that do 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 do. Like you get those repeating rhythms.
Yeah.
So that there's more of like this repetition. But again, I don't get like frustrated with it
Yeah.
or bored or tired of listening to it because like Kate, yes, Kate has the very like repetitive rhythm in the bass line, but as is his gift, he gives you a very memorable melody that you can follow the whole way through. So you don't really get fixated on like, why does the piano just keep like doing this rhythm over and over and over again? Because you're too busy like following that melody. And some of these other ones like forward, I feel like the same way. The rhythm almost like becomes just a backdrop to the melody that he wants to give you. Like, and so I love that he can use more of that like minimalist repetition, but it's not going to get annoying. Um again, I don't know. I will go ahead. I guess this is as good a time as any to mention it because like memories is in this list of has a lot of piano in it. I don't know if it's a hot take to say this. I really don't know, but I personally I like memories better than Kate. And if you made me pick like what is the most emotional track in Silent Spy, I would actually pick Memories instead of Kate. I understand that like Kate is very significant to the story. Like Kate Drew actually composed it. She hit a code in it. It's part of a puzzle. She taught Nancy how to play it, and then Carson learns how to play it. But like just Memories as a piece of music, like oh
Oh
my word,
yeah,
it's
that's actually the one that I used. That's the
oh,
one that I used when everybody was
look
telling
at
their thanks and
see this is why I always tell you your instincts are good.
but no, you're right though. It
It's
is
so
very emotional.
emotional.
Yeah,
Oh, like
that swell
um
starts to happen at the very beginning and
yes. And I think somehow it like captures the essence of Silent Spy to me, like just
yeah,
perfectly. Cuz Silent Spy is a very like bittersweet story
it
cuz
is.
Nancy gets some closure, but it doesn't erase the fact like she lost her mom and she had to
Yeah.
work through the trauma of that. It's a very painful experience. And I feel like Memories, aptly titled, it kind of captures like the bittersweetness of everything that like you can cherish these memories, but also it doesn't erase like the pain and the loss that's wrapped up in them. And there's just I think it's like the way he structured that piece. Like there's some very warm chords in it, and that
Yeah.
makes me feel good. But then he'll also switch, like you'll get some minor harmonies and things, and so it just kind of goes back and forth between the two. And I think like what he does with piano and strings, and I like there's a little bit of like the Scottish element kind of comes in right at the very end, which is a nice nod to everything Kate did for Scotland. And Thomas actually, he recognized even when he wrote it, he figured that like Memories was one of the tracks that was really going to go over well with people. So, although he did mention his personal favorite is Expectations.
Oh, I love that one too. I just love I
That was I love that one too. It has a great key change, good
yes.
build, really fun to play on piano. It's
It
hard, but it's fun.
he just has I just really particularly this is one of my favorites that he's done.
Yeah. Now I am curious, Carter. Because like we've kind of been focusing more on the like emotional tracks of Silent Spy. There are also some legitimate like spy music. Like, do you feel any kind of way about like the spy music in this game?
um not really, no. I guess mostly because spy music to me is so generic. Like it never
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like you hear spy music in any show or movie, it's just about always the same. And so I don't know. I don't really have like
yeah,
this particular like anything to it. I think it's dramatic in the game when it happens and it starts playing. I'm like, this is really dramatic for a Nancy Drew game. But then
yeah.
again, the whole game is very dramatic. So I mean, I guess it fits. But yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty much where I land. Kind of like it's just spy music.
it's
Like
just
it
spy
doesn't
music.
really catch my attention, doesn't blow me away. I don't
Yeah,
really remember it
yeah.
outside the game. Like it's fine. It's there. Um Now I personally probably my biggest criticism of this soundtrack is, and I think this kind of comes from kind of the like standard that we got used to, both with Kevin's work, but even also like Tomb of the Lost Queen as an international game. Um, I think Silent Spy is missing missing some Scottishness
That's fair.
to me. Um, it's almost like, and again, this is where I think, okay, that template it constrains. Um, I just don't think there was enough opportunity here. Like, how does he hit all the things that he needs to? I need spy music. I need emotional piano music for Kate Drew. Um, but also this game takes place in Scotland. Like,
Well, yeah,
there's only so much you
and
can
I think
do.
a lot of that has to do with just because the story. Like, had this game not
Yeah.
been about Nancy's family and had to be so piano
Yeah.
focused and music driven and about spy life, then he probably could have totally tore up the Scottish track. But you know,
Yeah. So like maybe I don't know if this is then like again is
I th-
as you just mentioned, maybe it
I
comes to
think.
how the game is structured because I'm just like, if you're gonna take me to Scotland, let me feel like I'm in Scotland.
I
Give
mean,
me some, give me some neeps and tatties and a Scottish jig,
well, I mean, I certainly think that had he not had those things, he could, because think of the Haunting of Castle Malay that Kevin did. I mean, he didn't have
Yes.
to, he
Hey,
didn't. No, I
it's like
mean,
her directive. Would it have killed you to let us go inside the Ten Raven pub and there'd
I
been
mean,
a band in there?
well, I just like, I mean, you think of that, like there really wasn't anything theme wise other than Ireland that Kevin needed to really like
Yeah.
accomplish. I mean, he got to like dive 100% into that, whereas this one he just has more divisions I think he has to meet, and then yes, with
Yeah.
the template having to only have that. So
Yeah. I just like it makes me a bit bummed. I wish it had more Scottish flavor to it.
I get
Cuz
that.
but again, yeah, to me it's almost like they just, threw a dart and it hit Scotland on the map and so they just decided, okay, yeah, K Drew did stuff in Scotland. Like and the location's just not as significant
Yeah.
to the game. So and I think the soundtrack suffers from that as a result. And I don't think that's Thomas's fault. I think you've kind of nailed it. Like it just comes down to what he had to work with. Um.
So do you want to like talk about the inspiration behind Kate real quick before we move to the next
Yeah.
one? Because that's such
Oh
an interesting
yeah.
story.
Yes. Okay. So we got to talk about Kate. Obviously, we all can agree Kate has to be one of the most iconic Nancy Drew tracks of all time. And so what we have here is her interactive. They let Thomas know, like, we want a theme for Nancy's mom. And so Thomas is here, like his brain is spinning. Like what do I write? Like I have no idea what to write. Like this music is it has to be so full of meaning. Like it's a defining track for Nancy and her mom. And he happened to be talking to um one of the producers on like I don't know, phone, video call, something. And he was playing his keyboard while he's talking to the producer. And it sounds to me like he came up with it like on the spot while he was on this call. And he says like, "Hey, I know it's not much, but I have this little theme here that I just wrote." And he starts to play the, da 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 da. And whoever he was talking to says like, hey, that's pretty good. And Thomas is thinking like no 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 no, you can't just say it's pretty, like that means it's not good enough. Like we can't have something that's just pretty good. And so what he does is he goes off and he writes this like grandiose, like very majestic piece of music. Comes back to her interactive and they end up agreeing like, you know what, actually, the very simple thing that you wrote that was better than this really like majestic thing. And he says he wrote it in like 30 to like didn't even take him a minute. He thinks probably about 30 to 40 seconds he comes up with the Kate theme. And he says it really just like hit him out of nowhere. So this really sounds like a flash of inspiration kind of moment to me. And I feel like Carter, we could call this like this was his message in a haunted mansion moment.
Oh yeah.
Like, Kevin Manthei sits down and, oh, yeah, let me crank out one of the most iconic Nancy Drew's soundtracks in a day. And here, like, Thomas gives us one of the most iconic individual tracks, like, in less than a minute. Boom. There it was.
So good.
Yeah. And so I love that. And I would agree. Like, I'm glad actually that they decided to go with the simpler piece of music. Cause I even feel like that fits Kate herself better. Like, she wasn't like, yeah, she had a very dramatic life, but you know, as a musician and stuff, like, she just learned, I think, learned how to play the piano, like, just because she wanted to. It's not, and she didn't become some like concert pianist or whatever. So to me, I was like, when I hear Kate, I was like, that sounds exactly what some like person who just likes to play piano for fun might come up with. It's very fitting.
Yeah.
Lovely melody. It's just like seared in all our memories.
Yeah.
That's like such a great story. Like, I love that for him, that he just, that's how it came together for him.
Yeah.
So then comes the Shattered Medallion.
At least its music was good.
That's pretty much like, if we needed to cap it in one sentence, yes.
But you know what though? I actually really enjoy this game soundtrack. I think it has some really beautiful ones in the game. Like,
I agree.
yeah, there's actually
Lovely little soundtrack.
I agree. Yeah, no, yeah. So a lot of the times when I've made Nancy Drew videos, I can remember what tracks need to be, because not all tracks pair really well behind someone speaking. So I have so many like specific ones that I remember that I always flock to use for analysis videos or ranking videos or whatever I want to use in the background. Shatter Medallion actually has like two or three that are just perfect, and I love them. Tranquility is one of my just I love that one. It's so good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect, perfect description. Like, yes, you need some peace and quiet and calm in your life.
Mm.
Listen to that track. And I always think like the piano. I don't know how to describe it other than like the piano in that track, like it sparkles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
I
these
like that.
sparkling high notes.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, that
yes.
yeah.
It just fills me with like, ah,
Yeah, same. No, yeah, it gives me like some kind of like inside good fuzzy feelings, but I always use that one for background because it's perfect. And then
that makes a
uh
lot of sense.
yes, and I think it is also exploration. That's the one that is yeah, yeah, that's the other one that I
I
use
think
for backgrounds.
I want to say exploration is what plays on the main menu as well. I
Is
could be
it?
wrong on that. But yeah, I enjoy that one too. I think it has a lovely like build, and then it kind of just, the orchestra kind of takes off
He's really good
near
at
the
making
end.
pieces like that. So,
Yes,
hmm
takes you on a journey.
yeah. And
Hmm.
I know we've mentioned these beautiful tracks, but it also I they have some other really good ones that are like, um Adventure is one of them. That's the one that's like dun da 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 da
Yes.
da. It's just this like adventure.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this, like, what a fun little, like, it's like the resurrection of the victory music.
Oh yeah,
Like,
that's true.
go back to the early Kevin Manthei days,
When you
like
find a shat medallion.
games 5 through 9, where
Yeah.
he got to do all of those victory music tracks. And I love this one, like adventure. You put a medallion on the board and adventure
Yeah.
starts
Dun da
playing. And so
da.
I think, yes, I think that's a nice little connection, even just to, you know, we used to do the music once upon a time. Like, and it is very celebratory.
Oh, absolutely.
How about puzzle?
Oh, I love puzzle.
Is puzzle
Puzzle
fun?
reminds me of some of the uppity ones in Deadly Device. Actually, it has
You
that
know,
dun
yes.
dun dun
That
dun dun dun. It has that like
Yeah.
happiness that floods.
Yes. Yeah, it's just like it's a fun just a little bop.
Yeah, it is.
Because one thing we haven't talked about yet, like we talked Kevin Manthei, and we're like, exotic. Here's the first great Kevin Manthei bop, and then you get like
Swing,
jig,
pop,
swing, pop,
jig.
and I'm so glad that like Thomas kind of also got his moment to like. I feel like puzzle is
Is that the one
one of
that's
his
like
bops.
da-da-da-da-da? Has that like
Yeah, yeah,
dun, 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 dun,
yeah.
da-da-da-da-da?
Yeah, it's like it's a little bit like I'm doing a bad job humming it, but yeah, yeah, and it's got those fast
Yeah,
um
okay. I was just making sure because I was
notes.
remembering. But yeah, no, yeah, it is a
Yeah.
bop.
Well, and the funny thing is, as soon as you said deadly device, then my brain like pinged over to
Yeah, no, mine did too. And then I was like, oh, get out, get
research,
out.
and I'm like, wait,
Yes.
stop! Like I'm hearing research right now. We're not talking about we're not
Yeah,
talking
no,
about
say that
research.
happened to me. Ah,
Yeah. Oh, oh yes. I will say with puzzle as well though. I actually really I think this was a good choice on like her interactive's part that they keep that track limited to like you actually have to be in the puzzle palace, like standing
yep.
at the computer, like solving a puzzle. And that's the only place you hear it because that one is like there's just enough repetition and like looping quality to it that I feel like if that one like kept popping up all over the place in the game, I might actually kind of like, I'm a little bit tired of this one now. But
Yeah,
I think they get it just right with
I
how
agree.
much you hear it so that it's enjoyable, a little bit of a head bopper, toe tapper, but then you move on to other things. And again, this kind of goes with how I feel about Silent Spy, but again, this is not Thomas. This one's definitely not Thomas's fault. Like New Zealand, again, it's like they just happen. Wait, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't Shatter Medallion one Carter where like a fan got to choose the
Yeah,
location?
yeah, they won a
Yeah. Okay.
contest.
Well, again, it's not the fans. It's not the fans' fault, but like her interactive, they just made New Zealand. I feel like completely irrelevant to the game. So
Yeah.
there really is nothing
At
about this
least the music
soundtrack.
was good.
Yeah. But like again, the soundtrack, despite it being for an international game, like there's nothing about it. You'd be like, hey, I'm in New Zealand right now. But again, I don't even know enough about New Zealand's culture. Like I don't know enough about like the Maori and stuff to even like I don't even know like what did we miss out on. I know we missed out on something, but yeah, it's just like there's nothing distinctly New Zealand about the soundtrack. But that's not Thomas's fault. That's her interactives. I doubt they asked. They just said, "Give us a reality show."
So basically,
And I
what
feel
what
like they have a lot of water. I feel like I don't know. The tracks also feel very like water,
what
water
should have
focused.
happened is Nancy should have solved a mystery, and she should have stayed in a hobbit hole, and then we could have had Hobbit like Nancy Drew music.
You stop. You stop.
Just
No,
saying.
my little heart would have exploded if I heard anything that sounded remotely like Lord of the Rings. Oh
Just getting your wheels turning on a mystery for that right now.
my word! Stop. Yes, please. Yes, can we have the Nancy Drew game where we just go live the Hobbit life? Oh my word. Okay. Do you have any other thoughts on Shatter Medallion, or shall we move on?
No, I think we should definitely go to our next one, which is Labyrinth of Lies. And
Yeah,
I
I've heard
particularly
you
love
speak
this one.
quite highly of this one.
Yeah, yeah, I love the soundtrack on this one. There are like many tracks where they start playing and I'm like, "Oh, I love that one. I love that one. I love that one." But also this is another one of those games where I it has many tracks that I pull from to put in the background of videos like they just have good music. Um I particularly appreciate Discovery. Um, that's the one that starts off like it's got like a I think like a string, and then it's just like string for 5 seconds, and then it goes dun da 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 da. Yeah, and it's just Oh my gosh, it speaks to
Again,
my artesian soul.
memorable melody.
Oh, so good.
That's such a great example.
But also,
Yes.
I love that
Love that one too.
it takes its time to get there. Just that like 5 seconds of just that sound, and then it like hits those strings, like bring it in, and I'm like, I melt every time. But no, this one has really great like uppity like Greek style music that's really fun. Like
Yeah,
the
the stuff you hear above ground is just
yeah,
delightful.
it is. It really
Um,
is.
yeah, like culture, like like I can't even do
Yes.
the little like trills and the grace
Right.
notes correctly.
Dun
Like
dun
it's
dun dun dun
yeah.
dun dun dun.
Um, yes, festive. Oh,
Festive.
I love it's festive. It's just
I literally,
so
I every time I listen, I just can't help but like
yeah, oh
it's
my
so
word, it's
good.
yes. I feel you. And then
Yeah.
yeah, and then longing's a little kind of fits more like its mood is closer to like discovery.
Yes.
And
So
he
good.
uses again I don't know if he's using a particular like Greek instrument cuz I'm really bad like anything that's not like standard orchestra instrument. I'm like so bad at knowing what they all are. But like longing um I feel that longing is a very worthy successor to like Kevin Manthei's Dirk or El Toro.
Oh yeah.
I think it's got the same kind of like just quality to it, and you
Yeah.
have this like guitar. I don't think it's actually guitar and longing, and I don't know particularly. But I feel it's kind of in the same spirit as those, so I really enjoy it. Um, Now the stuff that plays like when you go down into the underworld, I don't love what you hear down there quite so much. Like it's a little bit more like it doesn't catch my attention as much.
There is
I
one that I
think
really like. That's one. I don't remember.
um
I honestly I cannot remember what the track's name is. I just know that I've used it in a video before because
okay.
I was trying to use it for spooky purposes, but it starts off with like
Oh,
a I think like a some kind of low ambient noise, and then it just kind of like kicks off. Um, I'd have to go back and look though just to confirm, but that's the only one that I really liked. So
okay. And there is one it was called Souls. Souls I kind of actually appreciate like it has these weird like vocal like a hissing kind of quality to it. Like there's actual vocal lines in it, and I actually think like that's really clever and very kind of like befitting. Like it does make me think of like there's these souls in the
yeah, yeah,
underworld.
yeah.
They're trying to like pull you in with them and leave you trapped.
It was caution, by the way. I just went to go
Oh,
caution. For whatever reason, it starts
okay.
off like do 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 do, and it's like very like, oh, what is
Oh,
happening?
let me
Like,
get
what's
yeah
yeah.
yeah, and then resigned.
I
Resigned
don't know that one. Resides.
is the one it's got like a male it's got a male vocal in it
Oh
like the
yeah.
oh, oh.
uh,
um this is
Ghost of Thornton Hall,
again
anyone?
this is personal preference. It's not a bad track, but I find the vocal kind of distracting.
Like, I'm no fan of vocals with in my music, so
So
I'm not for it.
I could do without that. And something I haven't mentioned but I kind of was like making it as a note throughout. I still feel like we haven't had like we haven't gotten like a Thomas Regin like danger track yet that really just like grabs hold of me.
Yeah, I would
Which
agree.
that kind of bums me out. Like I don't think he hasn't had his like danger music moment yet.
No, yeah, no, I
Um
agree. I can't think of one danger track that sticks out to me, but I can think of at least three from Kevin's era.
yeah. And then I also wanted to know, and this is more like again speaking to kind of Labyrinth of Lies quality, which I kind of do think, and we've been seeing it. Like you can see, I think Thomas is getting better and better. Like he's finding how he wants to approach it. Um, and he's kind of again figuring out that like how do I give her interactive what they want, but it's still me and something I can be proud of. And actually, Labyrinth of Lies, Kalina posted about it on the Amateur Sleuth blog back in 2014 that there was actually a website that did a whole like they chose like the best video game music of 2014, and apparently the like the link was not working anymore, and I didn't get a
Oh,
chance to like see if you could find it through the Wayback Machine or anything like that. So I don't know what all they picked, but Kalina indicated in the blog post at least that um they had chosen like some pretty significant video games.
oh wow.
And then Labyrinth of Lies also made the list as
That is a
being
huge honor.
best video game music of 2014. So that's quite an honor, and I think again is just a testament to like Thomas is really getting his groove now. And I think that's so fitting because now we can go right into I think you would be hard pressed to argue like, he went out on a high note with Sea of Darkness.
Oh, that's like his best one.
Like what a pinnacle. Yeah, what a pinnacle peak soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
Worthy to sit up like, if we've got the like upper tier of great Nancy Drew soundtracks, like it totally belongs amongst the best of the best.
Yeah. It's a really beautiful one.
It really, really is. And I will just go ahead and mention now, like, the Clue Crew feels very strongly about the Sea of Darkness soundtrack. This was actually one, again, that I remember on my survey. I got to this one, and I actually think it might have been Sea of Darkness, honestly, the most of them all. Like, people just, they were just pouring forth with like adoration. Like, I love this soundtrack. There was not a single negative comment about Sea of Darkness
Wow.
music. And I remember the comment section was just overflowing. Like people had so much they wanted to say about it. And I think we have a combination of factors going on here. Like, yes, it's genuinely great music. He did such a great job with this one. I think also what you have going on here is we've kind of seen from the Kevin Manthei era that people I think naturally gravitate to anything that gets within the style of like Celtic or like Irish, because Danger on Deception Island and Haunting of Castle Malloy both always tend to go over very well with people. And Sea of Darkness would be the third one, like in that same kind of vein. Because and Thomas actually talked about like from his research he was doing, he actually found out that Icelandic music has a lot of ties to Irish music, which makes sense if you look geographically where they are. I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
So there is like a strong kind of almost like Irish undergirding to Sea of Darkness's soundtrack. But then also I think also too like in general, people are just very attached to Sea of Darkness. Like it's a pinnacle game, kind of like in Her Interactive's history, because we all know it as like it's the end of an era.
Sure.
So I think kind of like all those combination of things. But I don't want to dismiss the fact like we got to talk about like Sea of Darkness really is good. And I
Oh
said we
yeah.
were going to come back to this. This is where it comes to play. Like finally we broke the
It's
mold
broken.
of the template. No more of this 10 minutes, 10 tracks for 10 minutes. Thomas, I don't know how hard he had to like push on this, but I'm glad they, went along with it. The Sea of Darkness soundtrack is 16 minutes long. And if you look through it, there's actually like multiple tracks that are like 2 or even 3 minutes long.
Unheard of.
Yeah. Like, so both more music. Now, we should point out, granted, the word I couldn't keep is in part of that. and like it's a lot, so that's kind of taking up a big chunk. But still, um, I think Shanty's like at least it's like 2.5 minutes long, and you'll hear that one throughout the game. So I love that he really pushed. Like, no, like I want to. This is what the music needs. It
Yeah.
needs to be longer. It needs to be able to go places. Like, don't confine me to 1 minute. And I think like we all win because he pushed for that.
Yeah. I know. Imagine how they kept going in that era with,
I was thinking
yeah,
about that. I was
with
like,
more
can you
music.
imagine if we had continued on and he had been able to keep like because he probably would have kept pushing. I think for
Yeah.
no, let's do longer soundtracks,
Yeah.
more music. So I love that. This one also I think has some really memorable like instrumentation. Like there's actually you'll see in the credits like there's someone who's credited as being the fiddler for this game, and like fiddle is very important to this soundtrack. So I love that he actually clearly means he got like a live musician involved. And I always think of that one. Is it called Waiting? It's that one like it's nothing except flute. You hear it when you go into the caves.
Yeah. I think so. I think that's what it's called.
So it's like very memorable, very mysterious. And
Well,
I did now. I just
oh,
well
go
wait.
ahead.
Are you? Well, I was like, I just need to know. Please, like, tell me all the Carter thoughts about like the word I couldn't keep, and not just the word I couldn't keep, but the way it like pops up
I know. I was
throughout
literally
the
just
game.
thinking that. Well, I was going to say that a minute ago that it's so great that he ended with this game, and gave us so much like push outside of the boundaries as his last game, like with the time, but also with music, because we we can add this now to the Nancy Drew like lyrical word music that we have received, like all the way from the beginning, which was the Secrets Can Kill rap, all the way to
Mhm.
this now, which
Yeah.
is like,
Oh yes.
the word I couldn't keep. So, um, yeah, no, it's first of all, it's a whole bop. It's just so good. I can recite to you every word of that song, I think. Yeah,
I'll be nice and I won't do a pop quiz.
don't do a pop
Like,
quiz.
okay,
I'd have
okay,
to actually
Carter, you
start
must
from the
now.
No, no,
Yeah,
no.
now for the next 3.5 minutes, Carter is going to
I
serenade us.
I would have to start from the very beginning. I can't like you can't be like I can't know. I'd have to start from the beginning.
More and shore
No,
behind.
no, no. We're not doing this right now. I okay, not. No, but I will say like I have actually I've like just like going to the grocery store into the car. Like I be playing the word I couldn't keep. I know people are like, what's he listening to in there?
So
Like,
they walk
dude,
by your car and they're like, What's that guy doing?"
it's
Like,
me.
are you just
It's me.
having a?
It's me with the volume at max volume. Yep.
Do you sing along? I hope
Absolutely.
at the top of your lungs.
Absolutely. They ask me, they say, "What's your karaoke song?" I'm gonna say the word I couldn't keep from the Nancy Drew games. No, but it is truly like it's a great game. I also appreciate how like that melody appears like throughout. It's like weaved like throughout the
Yeah, it's such a
game.
good link. Like, it really
Yeah.
ties the whole thing together that you keep
Oh yeah,
hearing.
yeah. I think Music Box is like just
It's in
that
Music Box,
actual melody where
and then
it's
also Shanty.
okay.
I love Shanty.
I have to go
Oh
back and
my
listen to
goodness.
Shanty.
Anyway, I can talk about it in a moment
There's
because I still
another
want to
one
hear about
that
it.
I love. I particularly love the one that's like I think actually this one does have some voices in it, and is that Shanty? It's one of
No.
the no, it's one of the more uppity ones
Is it
though.
upbeat? Oh, are you thinking of All Hands?
Yes, that's it. Yeah,
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That does have a bit of vocalizing, like
I'm
at
okay
the.
with that one with the vocals. I'm okay with that because it's so crunk that I can. Yeah, I'm like,
It's a
yeah, yeah,
headbanger.
it is. And their voices in the background hype me up more. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, we're all hands on deck. We can do this. Yeah,
Yeah,
so it's good.
yeah. No, that's a great way to describe it. I actually didn't really think about the fact, like, yeah, it almost like gives you this picture of like a bunch of sailors
Yeah,
on the
that's the
ship, and
vibe
they're
that I
like
get.
singing themselves into let's do this. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's great. Um, yes, the word I couldn't keep. Now, this is actually like a very, it's almost like a core Nancy Drew memory for me. Like I remember like hearing it for the first time and just be like, oh my word. Like we got a whole like 3.5 minute song with like someone singing. And I mean, all credit to Billy Wildrick, who voiced Elizabeth in the game. Like, what a beautiful job she did singing. She has such a powerful, very like melodic voice. Beautiful to listen to. And I think the way Thomas arranged it, like first of all, the melody, like it's just it's again, melody is his gift. It's a great melody, but I the way he arranges it, and it has, I always think about like just like the way it builds to that like final chorus at the
Yeah.
end, and like the strings are going crazy in the
Ugh, it's so
background.
good.
Like, oh, and Thomas actually talked about kind of similar to Kate, like he says it didn't take him very long to write it. So I think this is just another one like he just locked in and it poured out of him. Um and Shanty, which you'll hear like throughout the game as you're playing it. Um I kind of feel like the word I couldn't keep is the epic vocal, and then Shanty is like the very like gentle but still no less epic like instrumental version. Because it starts very like mellow, but then again it kind of like he brings more and more in it, and by the end you just get some really beautiful like things going on with the strings and stuff. So I just really love it. There's so many. I agree with you. All Hands is great. I think Festival, um, like da 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 da, and there's a lot of other ones. Like just like this is one. It's a good thing the word I couldn't keep is like so epic, because otherwise I think I was like I wouldn't know how to pick a favorite in this soundtrack
Oh, I
because
know.
there's so many good ones. Um, but yeah, like just what a beautiful way that he like, again, it's sad that all good things must come to an end, but I think of these three, like he got to go out on the highest of high notes with that one.
Yeah.
We are grateful. So um I think we wanted to just do a little bit of like just kind of any final thoughts on like the Thomas Regin era, and then we can move into introducing Ryan Ricks. So
Love you, Thomas. Thank you for what you have given to us. Even though it was only like 7 games, it was your thumbprint, and you have left your mark on the Nancy Drew games, and we appreciate it. And yeah, I've enjoyed it. So
yeah, I think you said it perfectly. Like if you 7 games is not that long, but it was long enough for him because he's a master of his craft. Like
yes,
he left his mark. And there are a lot of Thomas Regin tracks that I feel just as strongly about as anything that Kevin Manthei wrote. So in terms of like he had to be the one who was the successor, fill big shoes, and he did a great job and really gave us a lot of great music. And I do wish, like I'm with you, I wish he'd gotten to stay longer because I kind of feel like he was like peaking and kind of going into his own little like personal golden era. So I would have loved to have seen what else we might have gotten to enjoy from him.
yeah, I agree.
But yeah, but change change must happen,
All
and
good
we
things
don't
must
need
come
to.
to an end.
Yep. We don't need to go into all, again, you all can go and listen to our, personal era, modern era episodes to get all the breakdown of, you know, company changes and things, but we come now into the modern era and new way of experiencing Nancy Drew and her interactive again once again decided like we need a new direction for the music.
Yeah.
So, how about you give us some of the Ryan Ricks background because he is our current. He's only done 2 games, but he is the current active composer for the Nancy Drew games. He did Midnight in Salem and Mystery of the Seven Keys.
Well, it was very interesting how he came about because Brittany Cox was brought on as the new voice of Nancy, and she finished recording her lines, and just in casual conversation with the staff, they were like, "So what does your husband do?" And she's like, "Oh, well, he composes some music." And they were like, "Oh, really? We'll have him send some of his stuff." And so she got home. They put together a playlist. They sent that in and they liked it. They enjoyed it. Her Interactive originally just wanted him to do the main theme for Midnight in Salem, but then they loved the main theme so much that they were like, why don't you just do the whole game? So, yeah, that's really how he got into it. But there is an interesting quote here that if you would like to mention, Tori, and we can kind of expound on because, yeah.
Okay, so yes, um this also was on the Unlocked podcast. He and Brittany did an interview together and kind of gave us that whole story of how it came to be. And Ryan made this statement. He said the music that I write kind of naturally fits in with the Nancy Drew brand. And then Brittany chimed in. She said, "Yeah, mysterious, spooky, maybe a little sad."
No, wrong. You've never played the Nancy Drew games if that's what you think, ma'am.
Yeah. So, um, I'm going to do my I'm going to do my absolute hardest as we move further into this conversation to be positive where I can be positive. But, yes, I have lots of critical
Well,
onions
it just, I
here.
mean,
And yes, like when I heard that statement, I'm just like, tell me you don't understand the Nancy Drew brand without telling me you don't understand the Nancy Drew brand. Like, have we not just talked about 32 game soundtracks? Like, let's just focus on the music. Think of how much there is to Kevin and Thomas's soundtracks that has nothing to do with mysterious, spooky, and maybe a little sad. Like, yes, those qualities come in, but it's like that's actually not that's not the essence of Nancy Drew. To me, Nancy invites us into these huge worlds where like man, yes, I can get this taste of Venice, this taste of New York City, spooky mansion, cozy French castle, waterside Snake Horse Harbor, like the what? I was like that's very confining if that's
yeah.
what you think the Nancy Drew brand is.
Yeah.
And
Well, I
that
think
attitude it's gonna come out.
well, yeah, and
Yeah.
again, we're just sharing our honest onions of like what we feel and think based on what we've read and what we know, and that is a little bit, I think, off-putting for fans because obviously fans are gonna know we're gonna know what we've had before, and just to know that that's like your perception of the games, and you're starting a new era, and that's your perception of the games is what you said. Like I don't think I don't think because I agree with you. I think it is inviting you into a world, right? Um, and
Yeah.
and the a little sad part, that's the part I think that really like puts me off the most. Mysterious and spooky, okay, for sure, I can see that there are some mysterious tracks, there are spooky tracks. There's I get that, but the little sad part, I'm like, what do you mean a little sad? Like, I mean, maybe there's a few tracks that have been sprinkled throughout the 32 games that are in a more mournful sense, but that cannot be like the overall image of the music, because for me, the
Yeah.
overall image is like, oh, the music is so happy. It makes me smile. I listen to it all the time. Like, I think of Bob and Swing in Secret of Shadow Ranch. Like, that's like one of the first tracks I think of, you know? I think of that soft piano in Curse of Blackmore Manor. I don't think of like I can't like I don't know. I just don't know what tracks. I don't know what a little sad. I don't know. But interestingly though, you know, if we're comparing like Ryan Ricks as far as Kevin Manthei, when we were talking about Kevin in his early era of music, how he like self promoted himself and he was just kind of getting into that gaming world. Um, Similar to Kevin, Ryan was also more of a newcomer as well.
Yeah, he's a
Um,
newcomer at
yeah,
this when Midnight in Salem come
right.
along.
And so like he hadn't had like this great repertoire of doing several games or anything like that. But also at the same time, he didn't really want to go back and listen to all of like what had been done before. He wanted to kind of do his own style of music.
Yeah.
But I also find that, which I totally understand. Like I get that. Like I think I would also have this like thing inside my head that would say, "Oh no, like in fear of maybe I'll pick up on things that other people have done, I'm not going to listen. I want to do my own thing." However, because you're coming in and 32 games have already been done, that's actually very important homework to know what games fans really liked in order to appease like what's already been done. And having that interview happen where they mention that, signifying that maybe they don't know this series of games very well, and then also choosing not to do the homework was not a good mix for starting with Midnight in Salem.
Yeah, that's a tricky one for me because on the one hand, like, and I think we both agree, like, and Thomas addressed this, like, we're so glad that Thomas did not try to be Kevin Manthei 2.0.
Right.
He just tried to be Thomas Regin. But yes, like it sounds like Ryan entered, yeah, and just made zero, didn't use anything as a previous reference point. Just
Yeah.
kind of started with
Which is
I
interesting
want to
because
be I want to be focused on what they're asking me to do,
I
and I
feel
want to
like
make
Thomas
my own
did.
decisions. I want to make my own decisions, like based on what I'm talking about with her, what
Yeah.
my own instincts tell me to do. I don't want to be shaped by someone else's work. And again, I respect that. Please, like, it's much better to be the best version of yourself.
Right.
But at the same time, yes, like we're talking about, especially because we know kind of the fan feelings, like everyone's just very on, like, walking on eggshells at this point, and like just very on edge about her interactive and the Nancy Drew brand because of all the changes. It just feels like there's, from at least from the musical side of things, um it's like, where's the effort to kind of make a connection here and show like that you understand the legacy
Yeah.
that exists here. And now I will also say, we've talked a lot about, like, what Ryan has verbalized. But again, we do also have, I want to keep in mind, like, this is not just Ryan's not just making decisions, like he's not actually the person like in full control here.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
he has been contracted to work for Her Interactive to give them music. So also, this is Her Interactive. This is what they want, because he did reference, like, he didn't go into specifics, but he did say that Her Interactive like verbalized to him, we've got a new Nancy, we've got a new look for the game, like we want the music to feel different as well. So
That
I
is
mean,
true.
do also have to keep in mind, like, there's a sense, yeah, they're paying him, so he's just doing his job. So kind of this balance of, like, yeah, I think you and I both think that we would have liked to have seen Ryan maybe have a stronger connection to, like, understanding the brand
Yeah.
and who came before him. and like specifically how they approach the music. But then also like, okay, Her Interactive, they've put their stake in the ground, like also saying like we don't want that anymore. Kevin Thomas, that approach, um, that's in the past. This is modern era. We need a new approach. Um, and then I'll just go ahead and mention this here because this is going to come up a lot for me as we talk about the two Ryan Rick soundtracks. Just my observation from like listening to Ryan Ricks's work of our three Her Interactive composers. He by far has what I would call like the most modern sound. He's very, very minimalist, it seems, in his approach. And when I say minimalist, I don't mean in the sense that like, he doesn't use a lot of instruments or he tends to use a lot of ambiance. I actually mean like minimalism is an actual, like, it's a technical term for like a style of music.
Sure.
And again, it became popular in like the 50s and 60s and has just continued on since then. Like, minimalist music uses very repetitive patterns. Lots of like, you'll hear steady like droning of notes. And you'll hear these like little like musical phrases and things, and it will just keep repeating. And his style, I think when you combine his tendencies to write more repetitive with Her Interactive, how they're going to implement the music into the game, um, we're headed into like Tori's struggling. So I think let's just go ahead and move into his first soundtrack, Midnight in Salem.
Yeah.
So I don't even know. I feel I I think Carter, I want you to go first because I feel like I just have so many thoughts about this soundtrack. Like,
Yeah, no, I mean, I
I want to hear from you
honestly,
first.
I don't think I'm gonna get into a lot of crazy specifics with this one because it's such a massive soundtrack compared to, what we've had in the past. My thoughts are probably going to be the same on just about every single one. So I'm just going to give you a good summary of how I feel about it. I played this game when it first came out in December of 2019 when I was in university. I was not impressed. I thought the music was very lackluster. It repeats a lot. I don't ever really go to it ever when I'm listening to Nancy Drew music because it doesn't like thrill me at all. And that's pretty much how I feel about every single track. The only one that I think I particularly kind of like is the one where it's kind of like the party and it's like,
Yeah.
ha, 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 ha. I don't know how that one's a little fun to me. And other than that, most of the music all sounds the same and it's very repetitive and yeah, it's about it. That's really all I got.
Hey, that's fair.
And
Like
that's just Midnight in
you
Salem. Now I have amazing, great things to say about Key, but that's just Midnight in Salem.
you 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 really don't need to say more than that. Like that's a great summary. So now you did point out like this is an interesting, again, that template. It's it's
Out
long
the
gone
window.
now. Like, out the window. They're done with that because it's interesting. Like, this soundtrack, it's 30 minutes
That's so
long,
long.
20 tracks, and on paper, you see that and you're like, ooh, oh my goodness, half an hour of Nancy Drew music. It's such a letdown though.
Yeah.
Like, such a letdown. And I'm going to say on this one, like, I up to this point have done a lot of, if I have said like I don't like this soundtrack, I usually follow it up with like, but I respect it. Like, what they're doing is not to my taste, but I respect why it had to be that way. This one, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I think both in terms of the music itself and how Her Interactive like implements it into the game, I don't like it. Not only do I not like it, like, I think objectively, like, I don't think it's good. I
Yeah.
think it's quite bad. And um this is my worst soundtrack in the series. And I dislike it so much, like it kind of sits in its own class of like whatever ones are low in my ranking. Like
It's
there's
in its
still a
own
lot
category.
there's still a lot better than this one. And now I did have some epiphanies while re-listening to it to prep for this episode. So I can get to that because I realized again there's like a combination of like a perfect storm of multiple different things that all like on their own might have a tendency to frustrate me, and then they all get combined into the same soundtrack. And so then it's just like dude, I can't, like, please, I hate this, make it stop. So I will say now, and it's interesting to me that her interactive, they asked him to do the main theme, and they loved it so much that they asked him to do the rest of the soundtrack. Because I remember when her interactive gave the like teaser post, and they said, "Here's Midnight Salem's main theme. Why don't you take a listen?" I wasn't impressed. I remember thinking like it's fine. It's not that interesting to me. And like it's it's very repetitive. Again, like he kind of keeps that that comes up so many times, and there's very little is done to change it up. And chromatics. We've talked a little bit about chromatic notes, Carter. Like chromatic notes are good for giving spooky, mysterious vibes. So I understand why he did it. But I don't know if you remember in our previous episode that I kind of talked about like White Wolf of Icicle Creek sometimes uses chromatic notes in a way that like puts me on edge. Well, what I realized from listening to this soundtrack is it's basically like just about every track in this game goes hard on the chromatic notes. So again, I think it's just like setting me on edge. But then also it's like he just keeps repeating it. Like, yeah, let me write this little chromatic motif and let me just keep repeating it. And maybe I'll pitch it down or pitch it up, but it's still the same thing. It's just different pitch. And then of course, her interactive makes a big shift because they decided to move away from, we're not going to have like multiple tracks that are kind of they'll be randomized and you'll hear them, like you can be in the same environment and you're going to hear maybe like 3 different tracks while you're in this environment. And you might even hear a little bit of silence. They shifted to every environment has its own track. And when you like change environments, you're going to get an abrupt shift. Like the music changes with it. And it's never going to stop. It's going to run on a loop, an eternal loop that you cannot get away from unless you turn your volume off. And so, what I have found with this one is I think that combination of like Ryan Ricks, he's very repetitive in how he writes a lot of these tracks. Like you'll hear the same thing. Like it might be a 2-minute track, and the number of times that you hear the same thing in those like 2 minutes or whatever.
Oh, I know.
It's like, oh, and then the chromatics plus the looping. Like I'm really not being dramatic when I say this soundtrack like makes me want to lose my mind. And I've reached the point now like I have to I don't turn the volume off entirely, but I lower the music volume because
Yeah,
it just
that's not a
drives me
good sign.
crazy. And I was actually even just like a few weeks ago, it was a Sunday afternoon, I wanted to take a nap. And sometimes I like to like pull up a stream or a VOD or something and just let it play in the background while I'm sleeping. And decided to pull up, because it was in my like queue of videos. I pulled up Arglephone playing Midnight in Salem. And what I found is like, Tori, you can't fall asleep to this music while that music is playing, because my brain was like fixating on it. Like, stop. it's like I'm losing my mind here. So that was a bad, like, and like it's just the I don't know what to say. Like, it really is, like, it's so
Honestly, I mean,
excessively repetitive.
I really just don't think there is much to say because I mean that's the blanket I think over most of the tracks is that they are repetitive, you know?
Yeah, and when you listen to them all, like, there's very little difference between
Yeah.
them. Oh, like, it's kinda like it feels like a one note kinda soundtrack the whole way. Like, and
Yeah.
again, maybe I will say, like, I also kind of enjoy the party track, and maybe it's because, like, that one is just like, man, it's so there's, like, a campiness to it. I don't know if it's because of the vocals.
Yeah.
Like, I remember hearing it when I played I'm like, "This isn't a Nancy Drew game." I'm like, "This is crazy, but also I kinda dig it."
Yeah. That was really the only one.
Um, yeah, so
Now you had mentioned his process. I think his process is interesting how he tackles doing the soundtracks. It's a lot different, I feel like, than what we've had before with our other two. And so I thought maybe we could kind of like talk about that a little bit as well, because I do find that to be interesting about Ryan Ricks and his um, composing process. Just,
yeah.
and I know a lot of this is like, it's difficult because we don't know, is her interactive still giving the same similar instruction that they were giving to like Kevin and Thomas, because they gave a lot of very specific instruction to them. Um, I don't know, but he actually mentions that he relied a lot on Brittany because Brittany had a lot of context for the game, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if that was a good idea because, I think it's probably better to rely on like better, like, like the instruction from the actual team because they know where they're taking it. Whereas if you're relying just on Brittany, who only is reading the sides, because that's the only, I know this based on like the blog, is that that's all that they ever do. They don't give you the whole script of the game. They just give you just the lines you're doing. That's, I feel like, harder to piece together as far as getting direction on where the music should go, instead of maybe hearing it from where the team who knows the entire conception of the game where it will go. um I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me because it also does indicate to me because he also mentioned, like, he has a background, like, what he had been doing before video games, he'd done some film score work.
Yeah,
Like, not for anything like, big theater, like, this is more like independent small projects. But I know he talked about, like, in terms of writing for film, like, he's very concerned with, like, the narrative and what direction the story is going. And it sounds like he had, like, a lot of desire, like, he kind of wanted I get the sense that he kind of wanted to know, like, how does the game, like, actually play out. And so he probably wanted Brittany's information because maybe
I think
from
so
her,
too.
like, her lines, she could convey a sense of, like, well,
Like,
this
it
is this
starts
is
here and then it
like, it
goes.
starts here, and then Nancy does this, and then this happens, like,
I
because
think so too.
you could I mean, Nancy, you could get a decent sense of kind of how that story goes from just having access to Nancy's lines. So it does seem like, and it just seems like I never got the sense that Kevin or Thomas were really concerned about, like, they're just, "Okay, give us what you want." And Kevin, I think they both, like, they'd be given, like, adjectives, like, "Okay, her we need something spooky."
Yeah,
Like, "Okay, I'll give you spook," and they really did just rely on whatever her interactive was communicating, and there wasn't this need to, like, kinda know the narrative of the
exactly. Yeah.
game.
Yeah, and I, Ryan Ricks was saying that he did get a few screenshots and a couple character screenshots, and he mentioned that he's a visual learner, so he's putting a lot of like the music and tying it into these like visual
Yes.
places that he's seeing, where, like what you're mentioning, Kevin, Thomas, I think they were just more like basing things off, like, okay, like for example, Captive Curse, since we've talked about it, like dark gothic German movie, monster movie. Like that's my description. Now like run with it, you know? And
Yeah.
he's not seeing the castle per se and going, yes, what would fit
What
with
is that?
this
What would a castle
courtyard?
sound like?
What would the cat,
Yes.
yeah, I think that's a major difference in the approach there that actually does affect, you know, what they actually end up pinning with.
Yeah,
So,
that's gonna change it. Like when you're thinking very heavily about like what does this environment need to feel like or sound like musically. That's way different from say like Kevin Manthei said that the adjectives that her interactive gave him were a big deal. Like if they and again, he doesn't seem to it doesn't matter where the track is playing. Um it's just like it just needs to feel if this is the way it needs to feel, then that's the way it needs to feel. So yeah, it
yeah.
really is interesting. Like yeah, the it's like there's like a foundational difference there. I feel like,
Yes.
and I don't know enough to say like if one is better than the other, but I still think it's worth noting that like yeah, right, and same is true for Mystery of the Seven Keys. Like he's looking at whatever screenshots they send him and thinking like, like what does this environment like sound like musically?
Yeah.
So
It does make
it's
it
quite
makes
a
a difference.
quite a
It
bit
makes a
different.
difference. I know that there was
Yeah.
also, mentioning out in the closing of Midnight in Salem that there was some fan feedback that's they said that there was a lot of stuff in mid that reminded them of stuff from other games,
I need to
even
know what that
though
was.
Ryan Ricks was avoiding previous mainstream music. And I I have that was not my experience. I know that you said that was not your experience. I don't know what things reminded them of other games because I have listened to that soundtrack. I haven't found one track that I'm like, yeah, that reminds me of blank. I I have yet to experience that. However, I did have that experience with Mystery of the Seven Keys, and I actually sit on a much more positive side with Mystery of the Seven Keys. Um, I know not everyone does, but I really enjoyed the music in that one. And there are definitely still some things I think that Ryan Ricks carries over, like his repetition. He repeats a lot still, but there seems to be better variation and difference in the track that it becomes a little less noticeable for some. Um, I do know that in the process of when Her Interactive was advertising for Mr. the Seven Keys, I remember, and I believe it was Rue that had mentioned that they did send specific tracks to be like, no, we want something that sounds
Yeah.
like this. And I remember the games that they picked were actually similar to the games. Remember those games that they had teased that were on the pictures in the cafe on the wall?
Yeah.
It was primarily those games. I remember it was Warnings at Waverly Academy, Treasure in the Royal Tower, and Curse of Blackmore Manor. Those three that I remember they said they gave as inspiration for tracks for Ryan Ricks. And I can see in some areas where there's like um I don't know what it is. There's like some kind of stringed instrument, and also there's a little bit of like ending sound piano. I I distinctly remember listening to some of those sections of the music and going, that sounds a little bit like this one piano track in Curse Blackmore Manor, or oh, that sounds a little bit like Ghost Dogs of Moon Lake, how it ends with that ending piano note. So, I know we don't know like hardcore concrete 100%, but I do feel that he had to have listened this time around and did a little bit more homework to
Maybe.
maybe what games preceded before. I know the big three, it was kind of their mission to be like, you know, the bridge between fans and current company who's making like big decisions, because I know they brought in a lot more of like what fans wanted. Um, I just feel like with Ryan Ricks and his music choices, I feel like they just were trying to just kind of give him more direction there with by sending him some of the popular Kevin Manthei soundtracks for him to maybe listen to. So
Mystery of the Seven Keys. This is a tough one for me because what I will say beyond a shadow of a doubt, it is better than Midnight Salem.
Yeah.
Like in entire degrees better than Midnight Salem. Definitely like there's a lot more kind of individual personality to the tracks, like more that I can like musically distinguish from one another in my brain. And there are some that I do find them like genuinely pleasant to listen to. Um I will say kind of on two planes. I still find his style so far it just doesn't excite me. Um there's a simplicity sometimes to the way he writes. I find that it's simple in the sense like it's simplistic. And like that's not a compliment. There's time when simple things are very appropriate and very good, but sometimes I just think like really this is very like this is just lackluster as a piece of music. Like give me some substance here. Um And I will say also, I know like Ryan Ricks's background, he actually came to like composition like later in his career. Like he went to college for a whole different line of work. And then he kind of discovered along the way, like, man, I really like composing. And then I think he did like 1 year of school and got a degree. So like he's still learning. Everybody can grow, and I think Mystery of the Seven Keys shows definite growth from Midnight in Salem. But he's still just I'm just like I don't think this for me the musical like standard is not here. Like Kevin and Thomas, like just what they seem capable of. I just feel like they're not even on the same plane right now. So that frustrates me. Like Mystery of the Seven Keys, just like there's not a lot to it that really grabs hold of me. And then like sometimes I guess I'll start with my I'm actually going to go negatives and then I'll say some more of my compliments. This is a very particular like if you don't know music, I'm sorry, this may not be something you can appreciate a whole lot, but there's this so many tracks in this game where he just goes from a D minor to a G major chord. He does it multiple times. I'm trying to think like the main theme. Like so many. He just uses that two goes back and forth between these two chords, and I'm like, that's not. This is kind of, I guess, my way of illustrating. I'm like, that's not interesting to me. Like, really, you can't do more than go back and forth between two chords? Like, come on, let's be more interesting than that. But again, if that's more of his modern approach coming through, and that leaning into like repetition, then I guess it is what it is. And I'm just, I don't think my ears will ever really be able to enjoy such stuff. But honestly, Carter, I will say with this soundtrack, and again, I kind of had like an epiphany, like listening through it to prep for this episode. Kind of realized I actually like I'm okay with this soundtrack for the most part. I find it pleasant enough to listen to, like if I just pull it up on YouTube and listen straight through to it. My real problem here, and again, this wouldn't really be his issue. This is her interactive's choice, and I know they actually got a lot of feedback on it after Mystery of the Seven Keys came out. It's the looping. For me, it's the looping. It's killing any potential I have to really enjoy Ryan Ricks's music. I feel like for example, the track that plays during the day in the cafe. I can actually enjoy that.
Yeah.
It doesn't blow me away, but I can enjoy it quite well. But you're in the cafe for a long time if
Yep.
you don't know what you're doing in that game. I was in the cafe for 2 hours the first time I played this game because I wanted to
Yeah.
look at all the things. You're making coffee. So think about it. A 2.5 minute track. How many times did I hear it in 2 hours? You do the math. Do you think I enjoyed it by the time I was done? No. I was over it. I think we all probably have a little bit of trauma around the piano track that plays in Vladena's shop. Yep. Again,
That's all it
first of all,
does.
it's musically it's not that interesting because he doesn't really develop it that much. But then loop, 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 get to the safe puzzle. Hey, guess what? I also spent 2 hours on when I played Mystery of Seven Keys for the first time. The safe puzzle. There's a lot of people that really like they have like a visceral negative reaction to that track because they're like, I heard it so many times trying to break into the safe. Um, the Alchemy Lab track, again, it's got this little chromatic thing it does. You hear it so many times. I'm gonna lose my mind here. So I actually think Mystery of the Seven Keys as a soundtrack. This is actually one I would rather hear it on YouTube or in somebody's ambiance video than in the game it was actually written for. Because the looping. I really and I know Her Interactive got a lot of feedback on that, and I really hope they take it to heart for the next game. People said we can't deal with the looping. It's too much.
Right.
Because I think if they would allow him to do more of a like, why don't you write some things that could work in multiple different environments? And you know, Carter, probably that's going to stretch him if he's used to trying to compose for a visual that he can see. That's going to require some new things of him to
Sure.
think outside the box of what he's used to. So I think that would be a good experience for him. But I just think all of us would be able to get on board with him a lot more if we weren't subjected to just hearing the same thing over and over and over again when we're in a certain space.
Yeah.
Um yeah. Now, I will just mention to as a compliment, because you kind of mentioned like some tracks that you heard, you're like, hey, this reminds me of that game. I remember the track Mellow Cafe.
I love that one
That
too.
was the da 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 da. Remember they put it in the holiday ambiance video.
Yes.
And I remember when I heard it, I felt like it had a little bit of Treasure in the Royal Tower flavor to it.
Yeah.
So that was a good thing. The bummer is though, that ended up being an unused track. I remember playing the whole game and thinking, why haven't I heard it yet? I was looking forward to hearing this one. Well, didn't even make the game. Go figure. Um, and then I will also, I probably my favorite aspect of Mystery of the Seven Keys soundtrack actually is I like what Ryan Ricks did with the two tracks that you hear in Operat. Because what he
Yeah.
did was like, so you go into Elka's side of the store and you hear this very like electronic sounding music. Dun,
Yeah.
dun, 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 dun. And it has this kind of like very almost like sterile quality to
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yes.
And then which makes sense. Like it's a very like bright, like fluorescent
Fluorescent.
space. Like
Mm-hmm.
everything's pale, like blind your eyes to walk in there. And then you go over to Merrick's side of the store and it completely changes. He's using like the same like melodic motifs,
Yeah.
but then he gives it like this like very like old school Prague kind of like quirky flair to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I played the game and I walked from one side of the store to the other, I was like, wait, it's the same music. He just changed the style to fit which side of the store you're on. That's so cool. So I'll give him credit for that. Like I think that's a really clever way of like conveying kind of the link between the two sides of the store. And like Merrick's side of the store, like it is very quirky. He's got like old gadgets and things all over the place.
Yeah.
And of course he's very grounded in like the traditions of Prague and things. So I like that the music conveys that contrast. So yeah, I guess it's like I don't love Mystery of the Seven Keys soundtrack. I think it's all right. I do think it's way better than Midnight in Salem, but still like it's not there for me yet. And I am concerned that unless and until her interactive scraps the looping, I think I'm just gonna be a very a very sad like Nancy Drew
I
fan.
will say though, I really did enjoy like how the beginning of Mystery of Seven Keys opens up with the title screen and it has its own special music.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
that was a nice touch. I feel like, um, especially
Hmm.
too that when it starts off and it's
I
like
think so.
showing you
Yeah.
the city of Prague and everything. Like, I think it has like this very cinematic, more sounding
Yeah.
music. That was all very good. I really liked that.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. The only other thing kind of that I felt was worth noting with this soundtrack was again this really is like Ryan again he's only done 2 games. So this was like Ryan Rix's first foray into international Nancy Drew cuz
yeah,
Midnight in Salem that was just small town America. Honestly, there's nothing to that soundtrack other than it's spooky.
yeah,
That's it. Um but this one he kind of had to explore like okay, this is a Nancy Drew game. So I want it to sound modern. So how do I blend that with like these elements of Prague? And so, he had to learn a lot about like Prague's music and their legacy. And so like that, for example, that's why he uses cello a lot because in his
yeah,
research he found that like strings and particularly like cello, very key element to Prague music. And again, this is maybe one of those, maybe kind of like Silent Spy. I wish we got more of a like true you're in Prague quality to the music, but at the same time, honestly, I think from a storytelling perspective, it actually fits the game that there would be this blend of prog music with like modern elements because that's kind of what the whole game is about. It's this
yeah,
blending of like you have all this high tech hacking, you know, Elka and her computer store kind of how do we harmonize this with like Prague and its traditions and its history. So um honestly, I guess I'm okay with that. I'm okay
yeah,
with that one because it fits the story. So that's where we're at with Ryan Ricks.
yeah. And honestly, I know like in our wrap up here, uh, maybe you can kind of talk about like where you sit now that we're waiting for game 35, and then I can share a little bit of my feelings, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah. So this is just hard for me in the sense of I feel like just I'm kind of sitting in this like tension of I don't know and it's like how patient do I be
Yeah,
to give him and her interactive time to figure out what works. So I will say one thing like and we demonstrated it with what we talked about like he was a newcomer. He was a newcomer pretty much when he did Midnight in Salem. He hadn't done any like long kind of video game music before. I think everything he'd done before that was video games was like these little mobile things. So that was a whole new venture for him. Um and what I'm about to say, I don't say this, I want to be careful with how I say this because I don't want to give the impression that I think you're only qualified to do a job if you've gotten a ton of like experience and training in that area. But also the fact of the matter is like musically, his background is not at the same level as Kevin and Thomas's. He didn't get a 4-year degree in music. Like I know he's played piano since he was a kid. And he did go on to get a composition, like a 1-year composition degree. But just like I don't say this to be mean, but also the fact of the matter is like again, there's a difference. There's a qualitative difference there. Is he capable of learning? I'm sure he is. I certainly hope he is. So I'm being trying to be optimistic that he can grow, and as he does more and more stuff, he's just going to keep getting better. Because Mystery of the Seven Keys that shows, like I can learn, I can make improvements. Um, so it's kind of like that part's kind of frustrating to me. Not so much like I'm like maybe more so like her interactive. You have this brand and you have this legacy. Like, why did you go with such a newbie? It's like, is this because, you know, I don't want to say. I don't want to say it because of who he's married to. Um, the convenience of, hey, I'm married to Brittany Cox. So it was like the convenient connection was there. Again, I don't know her financial situation. How much can they afford to pay a composer? And again, I don't want to sound like I'm just like dumping on Ryan Ricks or saying he's not qualified for the job, but there's just things kind of surrounding the whole partnership. This kind of just make me feel a little bit icky. And like, why did it have to be that way? Like, couldn't we have done a little bit more due diligence to really find someone with strong experience and stuff to carry on this brand that has such a strong reputation? But I will say, where I'm trying to sit right now is like I'm trying to be patient and recognize the best thing, like give people time to grow. Give her interactive time to figure out based on feedback, like maybe we should change the way we implement music into this. Give Ryan Ricks time to keep learning and trying new things. And I'm willing, definitely, I think he deserves to do a game 35. And I would say even a game 36. Because I kind of feel like Kevin Manthei, like, we knew what he was capable of by Treasure in the Royal Tower. And I feel like, Thomas only, by Silent Spy, I think you can say, yeah, we know what Thomas Regin's capable of. So, and then those two just kept getting better. So I think it's only fair to give Ryan Ricks for sure one more game, at least two more, before I say, like, you know what? I just don't think this was the best choice. Please find someone different. So I am just waiting until we get another game. Who knows how long it will take, and we'll see what it's like. I would really like Ryan to do a better job kind of accounting for repetition in his music. Kevin and Thomas both seem very aware of like the player is going to hate this if it's too repetitive. So I would like to see him think about that a little more. Like, how do I stop the player from hating my music? And I don't know, just branch out, try for some more complexity and things. Like, really give me a solid melody, take it on a journey. Let me really feel like the music took me somewhere. And then her interactive to her interactive, I would say, like, can you do a better job do a better job articulating what you want, do a better job giving feedback to say, like, hey, you know what, we can make this better. Change their standard of what they're listening for and change how they want to put the music into the game. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think I'll ever love the modernizing of Nancy Drew music. Like, I think them's just the facts. That's just like me as a person and a musician. If this is the direction they want to go, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to get on board with it. But I think there are things that her interactive can change. Like, if they just got rid of the looping, I promise you, Carter, that would fix so many problems. If they would just dump the looping. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I guess I don't know, uncertain, maybe very. I'd say more optimistic than pessimistic
I think,
because I do think that they're very responsive to feedback. I,
yeah. Well, and
I
I don't think
think it
it's,
can get to a better place.
yeah, and I don't think it's wrong to be uncertain. I mean, we're of course focusing on our onions this season, and so our onions are our onions, you know? So I I do also agree. Like I think that I'm also like wanting to see what else Ryan can do, and I'm trying to like allow him the space to do so, you know?
Yeah,
I don't feel like it's quite fair to only allow him one game, two games, and completely just like
yeah,
not allow any more room to see where else he can go with that.
yeah,
Especially since Mystery of the Seven Keys was better. And that gave me hope. I was like, okay, well, that's good. At least I know, because there are actually Midnight in Salem doesn't give me a lot of tracks that I can use that I pull for projects. Maybe one or two that I pull. Um, but Mystery of Seven Keys, there was a lot more. There was a lot more of like flavor to work with, I feel like. And
Yeah.
who knows if that was maybe because of the setting. Maybe the setting was easier to work with than Salem. I don't know. I don't know. But I'm willing to see where else he can take us for game 35 and 36. And I agree with you. That's actually what I was thinking when we were talking about Ryan Riggs was, oh, Kevin, like Secrets Can Kill days, like those were very short. They did loop, and his work from Secrets Can Kill to Stay Tuned for Danger to Message in a Haunted Mansion was just like step, step, step.
Yeah.
And by the time he got to Royal Tower, I agree. I think it was like, wow, blow me away. You can do so much. I realized that Ryan maybe doesn't have as much background, but I'm hopeful that maybe he and partnership with Her Interactive can take the fan feedback and soar with it wherever he
Yeah.
can take it. So yeah.
Yeah. And again, same thing. He doesn't need to be, nor should he be, Kevin Manthei 3.0.
Exactly.
He just needs to be the best version of himself. And like, I've actually met him, got to talk to him. Like he's a great, very personable, absolutely pleasant person to talk to. Like he's a great guy. So I think time is the best thing we can offer right now, because
Yeah.
he can grow. Everybody can grow.
Yeah,
Just keep learning.
for sure. Yeah, and I'm hopeful. I'm looking forward to seeing what else he can come up with in the future, as well as what game 35 and 36 are going to look like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we hope and wait for that to come out. But
Yeah.
Tori, that was the end of the music. Wow, there was a lot to say about the music for the Nancy Drew games.
Yes, we finally did it.
We did it. Well,
Made it through.
I
Now
hope.
I was gonna say, it's only fair, I think. You must be the one to announce what next week's episode is.
Yes.
It has
Well,
to be you. It cannot be me.
in talks of season 2, we wanted to, because we are focusing, particularly on our onions. Tori and I decided, we were like, we should really allow ourselves the opportunity to divulge our fullest, juiciest, layered onion of our favorite games. So we will get to spend next week divulging on Danger and Deception Island, my favorite game.
That's right.
And getting to really just immerse into it in its full entirety and pick it apart until there's nothing left. And I'm very much looking forward to it because I adore that game and it gives me an excuse to play it in preparation for the episode.
I know, right? Man, I just already know that's going to be a delightful conversation.
I think so too.
Can't wait.
But we look forward to seeing you at next week's Danger on Deception Island episode. And be sure to follow us along on YouTube. Here we'll have our episodes that come once a week, or Spotify. But either way, we always enjoy having listeners like you comment below and tell us your thoughts. Tell us what your favorite era of music is. What's your favorite game music track? Tell us, because we read them, we respond to them. We truly enjoy your onions as well. So all right, everyone, well, you have a lovely rest of your week, and we'll see you again next week for Deception Island. Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye.